Hi folks, Hebrew for All, lesson number 17. Let's get right to work because we're going to learn something new. Okay, so in the Hebrew language, we have two very, very important words that we want to start with. What are these words? These are the famous words yesh and ein. If I had to translate the word yesh, I would say there is. And if I had to translate the word ein, also with cat's eyes underneath the aleph, I would say there ain't. Or if I were an English teacher, which I am not really doing, so then I would say there is not, or there isn't. But it could well be that the word in English, ain't, is coming from this very word, ein, which is an expression of not, doesn't exist. So now let's take an example to give you a little sense of how this works. Imagine you would want to say, there is water, right? We're walking through the desert, and you call to our attention, yesh mayim. Simple enough, right? Yesh mayim. There is water. Thank God there is water. And if you're walking through the shuk, the market here in Jerusalem, and you want to say, there isn't money. I don't know why I'd want to say that, but someone looked at you and was trying to sell you something, and you simply wanted to say, no money, right? There is no money. Literally, it's there is no money, but ein kesef would simply mean just no money. And that would work, right? You would get your message across. So we could see from here that these are very good words to know. There is and there ain't. Okay? But the real use, the most popular use of these two words is really going to be with a new chart that we're going to learn right now. And like every time that we learn a chart, we're going to call this chart by the top word on the chart. So this is the Li chart. Let's take your finger in hand and just work it down once. Li, Lecha, Lach, Lo, La, Lanu, Lachem, Lachen, Lahem, Lahen. And the definitions of these words would be, Li would be to me / for me, to me / for me, and so if that sounds like it's a little redundant for you, then you can just going to have to learn that in Hebrew, this word can have both connotations. And sometimes people make the mistake of thinking it's only one of them, to me, but it can also be for me. So li would be to me / for me, lecha, to you / for you, etc. Li lecha lach lo la, to him, to her, to us, etc. Now, once we have these two components, which is those famous words on the right-hand side of the page, yesh and ein, and this second chart, the Li chart, we're all set to go with the concept of possession in Hebrew. In English, we got a verb, and the verb is have. I have a car, I have a boat, I have a house. In Hebrew, it doesn't work like that. We don't have the verb to have in Hebrew. So how do we express this concept of possession, having something? So the answer is, we take this word yesh, and we put it together with a component from the Li chart, and we've got a sentence. Go ahead and read it. Yesh li bayit. Now if you want to be hyper-literal, which is just fine for starters, in fact I sometimes recommend it, so that you're sure you've got the idea, there is to me a house. Yesh li bayit. As a American, former American, I would be more likely to think in my head, I have a house. but literally the words are yesh li bayit. And if there was some guy over there and he didn't have money and I wanted to make note of that, what would I say? I would say en lo kesef. Don't get confused at this point that there are two words lo in the Hebrew language. Lamed vav, to him or to it, and lamed aleph, which is what I've called the negativizer, meaning no. Here, the negativizer is the word ein. So one could say this hyperliterally, there is not to him money, or one could simply think he doesn't have money, ein lo kesef. And then one more quick case before we conclude today's lesson, giving you the straightforward presentation of this new concept, is what if you want to say David doesn't have money? So it's a little bit tricky, so I have to give it to you. I have to help you to formulate this the first time. So I think the most common formalization of this phrase, David doesn't have money, would be ein leDavid kesef. An alternative would be, which is perfect, would be leDavid ein kesef. The point that I want you to take away and be sure that you understand with this is that if you notice, ein is being used together with a lamed, as it were, associated with the lead chart, because having or possession is expressed by those two components together. So if I want to say David doesn't have money, ein le David kesef, or le David, to David, ein kesef. The word order isn't so significant, but it's very important that you remember that when you want to express possession, one must have this relationship in there between yesh and one of the components of the lead chart. Lesson number 17, Hebrew for all. Give it a review, and then we'll see you in the upcoming class. Shalom, shalom.